a lot of supplements and things I can take and do a little meditation. And wow, these seats are very strange. They're like straight up and down.
It's good for your posture.
It's good posture.
Good posture.
Okay. So please just look at this very nice gown. But I start with a question. So very great seeing you again in Germany, because people love you here. So how amazing is it for you being back and meeting all your German fans?
You know, I've loved being back in this country. The German audience has been so good to me for so many years, going back to Lost, even my first show, Young Americans, but Lost and Vampire Diaries had this unbelievable German following, but the people and the questions and the energy and love is so very deep and intelligent, and much like the German people. So it's really a treat to be back here.
Mm-hmm. And you're having a new show also, VWars. So some words about that for our viewers that maybe haven't seen it right now. So what is the show about, just in a few words?
Well, vampires, oddly enough. And I guess you could, one could argue or ask the question, you know, you spent 8 years on a vampire TV show. How did you end up on another one? And this show is incredibly different. It's incredibly relevant. It's incredibly timely. And when my management, my agent and my managers first gave me the scripts, you know, my agent's been my agent for 23 years. My manager's been my manager for 19 years. I mean, these are deep familial relationships. So we make decisions as a group, as like a family. And they very quickly reminded me or showed me, as did my wife. My wife stepped in as well and said, listen, this is a 5-book series with a graphic novel that also serves as a visual reference, a story reference, a character reference. And this was a perfect, as like my wife said, this is a perfect opportunity for me to bring the skill sets that I learned on Vampire Diaries after 172, I think, episodes, in a genre I know well. I love this genre. VWars is a modern take, a scientific take on vampires. There's nothing supernatural about these vampires, and it's actually the first time you'll ever see a vampire show on television or film where there's nothing supernatural about them. And VWars, to pivot on that, VWars is really hitting these big tentpole sort of societal things that we're dealing with right now. Climate change, borders, racism, disease, fear, politics, the politics of fear and how it seeps into our devices and ultimately into our psyche in this new age of the algorithm. You know, these are big tentpole societal issues that we're dealing with that are relevant, and we get to sort of weave them into the thread of this text. That's why we're so excited to get into a season 2, because, you know, season 1 of shows, it's tough, you know, because you're constantly trying to find your footing, your characters. You're trying to find the look of the show, the feel of the show, the pace of the show. And in a network format, I would have a much longer, we would have as producers, a much longer runway. You'd have 22 or 18 episodes. So we just have 10. So it's a more condensed form of storytelling, and that's why we're really excited to get into season 2 and just blow the lid off of this. And, you know, this is a global show. It's, you know, we get to build this into something very dynamic, very relevant, very sexy, very dangerous, and very controversial. And I don't mean controversial just for the sheer fact of being controversial, but controversial for the sheer ability to create conflict in the audience and raise questions.
Mm-hmm. And did you remember some funny moments from behind the scenes? Because I also collecting this nice behind the scenes memories, maybe some funny moments during all this hard shooting of VWars. Yeah, I mean, VWars VWars is a pretty intense shoot. I mean, we always laugh. I mean, even
everyone's running for their lives, but you're still laughing. There's not one particular behind the scenes episode or thing that jumps out at me. There's a lot of funny stuff more in post-production, because that's when the air has been let out of the balloon a little bit. It's not as stressful as a situation. We have my producing partner, James. You know, when you spend so much time with someone, you just take the piss all the time. You're just sort of just making fun of each other all the time. But we would get these, I would have him shoot these really funny videos of me like doing ADR, where you're trying to recreate a scene, but in a small box in a studio, fixing the dialogue. And I do some really weird stuff to make it sound as if what's happening in the scene, and to make it real and to make it authentic. And he has some pretty funny video of me doing some ridiculous stuff in the ADR stage that we'll end up releasing, and I'll make sure that you get some of it. It's pretty funny. But production was a very, very go situation. And while we had a lot of smiles and a lot of fun, the air was never really let out of the balloon. And the episode that I directed, we had this sequence where these two of the main vampires go to a club in Washington, D.C. because they know that the president's daughter is there, and they're there to infect her. And because we're way far down the road, and we're already in episode 9, the world had been deteriorating very quickly. It was a very cold, harsh world. And this scene was designed to be a departure from that cold world outside, very warm and fluid and intoxicated. And that was a fun scene, and it was fun to shoot. It was the only time, you know, you had people really laughing and joking, because they could be. You know, it wasn't so serious. The theme and what they were doing, the characters, was very serious, but no one else around them knew. So it was a nice departure. It was this really cool, fun club party dance scene with these vampires that were in there circling, you know, the president's daughter to infect her. And that is going to play another storyline later on. That's going to pay off big time.
Okay, Nina, would you like to take over?
Yeah. You want to switch?
Or? No.
Great. So Paris already asked you some questions about VWars, but I also wanted to ask you something in reference to Vampire Diaries. I mean, you already said that it's totally different and that it's more timely and deals with more like climate change and so on issues. But do you have some throwbacks to the Vampire Diaries during filming your new series?
Any throwbacks? Meaning?
Something that reminded you to the series, to Vampire Diaries. Some scenes or...
What do you mean throwbacks? Like something that... With something...
Reminds you to the Vampire Diaries, like...
Oh,
of the...
reminds me of... Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Well, you know... There's because the dynamics of the shows are very, very, very different. I wouldn't say that there's any throwbacks, but what a lot of, you know, some of the actors and stuff, because I spent so long on a vampire show, there are certain qualities of vampires that I've just learned. But there's no real throwbacks, just because these are two very vastly different pieces of material. But I learned so much, and every day, all day, I was taking information and skill sets that I got on the set of Vampire Diaries that I got to put into this show, which was very positive and very special.
I mean, this time you play somebody who fights the vampires. How is it for you to be a total different role this time instead of yeah, having your vampire teeth and after playing Damon Salvatore for so many years?
Right. Well, it's actually interesting because I think maybe from previews and maybe misinformation in articles, I don't actually fight I'm not actually hunting or fighting vampires. Swan, you know, my character is, he's a doctor, he's a research doctor. And he's the guy actually saying, these are people infected with the disease. He's trying to actually save them. So a lot of other people want to just kill them. Swan is the one that's actually saying, let's save these people. I want to cure these people. So I think a lot of people have the misconception that he's a vampire slayer or he's out hunting or fighting them. He's not. He's the one trying, at least in season 1, he's the one trying to save them. So it is very much a different, it's very much a different role for sure. Hello. Hi, come on in. But which is just that is one of those things where I love that people have that misconception because they think Swan's like this vampire slayer. I think they're going to be surprised when they watch the series that he cares for these people, you know, and even though they're running around like these murderous beasts killing people, he recognizes that they're sick. And that's a very powerful sort of storyline, or very powerful piece of him, you know.
So it's a real essence that he wants to help them instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a doctor. He very much cares for them. He doesn't want to hurt them.
And your last series project...
Which is, by the way, which is a crazy argument for him to say to people, these people are sick, we need to help them, while they're out running around killing people, and everyone else is saying, screw you, man, we're gonna, like, let's just kill everybody, you know? Which, again, plays into that fear spectrum. You know, we all base so much of our lives, we make decisions out of fear. And what I've been researching really in producing and doing this show is that fear is a defense mechanism that keeps us alive for the most part. But when you get into society and you don't necessarily need that fear, we still make decisions based on it. But it's just because we're animals. And the problem with that is that it's a vicious cycle. And no matter how much you read about it or you can wax poetic on how wrong it is, we're all still guilty of it. You know, we all still judge each other, even if it's by accident. You walk into a room, you immediately size someone up. It's just how we function. And getting to dive into that in a very deep, cool, intimate way is going to be exciting. So sorry, I interrupted you.
No problem. Would you say that you prefer, or that fantasy and science fiction movies thrills you more than lifelikes? So, series?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that this show, again, this would be the first vampire series or show or movie that we've ever seen that actually is not supernatural. These are not supernatural creatures. They became vampires because of a disease. So it's science-based and medical-based, right? And the fantasy sci-fi action, or fantasy sci-fi part or component doesn't exist in VWars. It was amazing for the 8 years that I was on Vampire Diaries, and in 2009 it was a very different society than it is now in 2019. And so we worked really, really hard to tell the story in a very grounded way. You know, we spent 11 months in post-production on a 10-episode television show. That's pretty unheard of. And that's the beautiful thing of working with Netflix. And we asked Netflix and IDW Studio because we needed more time. We wanted to really nurture these performances and bring them down and make them very grounded. Because at the end of the day, even though we spent 11 months on post-production and on 10 episodes, and mind you, these are not $10 or $15 million Game of Thrones episodes. These are small, grounded, nuanced episodes. But that's the thing. We needed the audience to love these characters. And if you don't trust what a character is saying, then you're dead in the water. It doesn't matter how many cool effects you have or whatever the storylines are. So it was, that was very, very, very important to us.
And how do you prepare yourself for roles like this? Do you try to identify yourself with your roles? And could you identify yourself with your role in VWars?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, I did the same thing with Damon. I mean, I work in a very specific way. I worked many, many, many years crafting Damon with a woman named Ivana Chubbuck, who wrote a book called The Power of the Actor, and it's a very specific way of acting where you're pulling from your life, past, present, and future ultimately, and you're sort of weaving that into the thread of the life of a character. Damon, there was a lot of Ian in Damon, and there's a lot of Ian in Swan, because Swan's a dad. I became a father, and then being a dad totally changes the way you relate on screen. And I also have a son in the show. So my relationship with this kid was so profound because I also had my own baby. And I always wanted to be a scientist. Swan is a very giving, loving man. He's team human, you know? And he spent his entire career studying infectious diseases to one day prevent or help prevent society from experiencing a catastrophic epidemic event, which this becomes. So yeah, there's a lot of Ian in Swan. There was a lot of Ian and Damon.
And I've wondered how you can combine all of your different jobs. I mean, like you've already said, you're a father, you're a husband, you're an environmentalist, and you're an actor. How can you combine all of those things?
Well, there's a lot of other components. Actor, producer, director, that is a whole other level. And then I own, yeah, plus the foundation, but I own like 6 companies too. And I didn't know that we were going to be, 5 of them are really active, but I didn't know I was going to be in post-production for so long on VWars, so I had set a schedule for the year of these 2 companies that I was building with the corporate structure and the financial part of it, all the investments and stuff that were going to hit at certain parts of the year. But I was still in post-production on VWars. So it's definitely less than ideal, but these 2 companies hit at the same time. So I've been simultaneously building these 2 companies that are going to be huge companies with a lot of give back of profit and money back to big, big, big climate change issues. So it's been single-handedly the most intense, amazing for sure, but the single busiest, most intense year of my entire life. 40 was insane from start to finish, really insane. And amazing and enlightening, and I got a lot done. You know, I've built 2 companies and a television show, and you know, with my beautiful wife, raised this kid for the last, my baby for the last year. But it's been really insane. So the VWars has really been about 16 months. Yeah, 5 months of shooting and 11 months in post.
But as you tell us that you have so many things to do, so how much gives you the energy when you have your little daughter and your wife, and you know this is your safe harbor, and when you have your stress day off, then you can come home and have this kind of love.
Yeah, I mean, when you walk in the door, you just let it all go. and you spend you dial in and you spend that time with the baby from the evening until when you put her down. And you have to find those moments for yourself, even 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of a meditation, or just sitting in the sun for 5 minutes and soaking in the rays. And a lot of it's food and nutrition. Food is medicine. It can keep you going. I'm actually going to grab one on my own right now, but I built this this drink mix. I have it here. I literally formulated this drink mix for this exact reason, to keep me going. Our bodies are nothing, again, like I said earlier, whether you're a single mom with 3 jobs, or you're an actor, director, producer, you're a journalist, or you're a Fortune 50 CEO. We just push. We push ourselves. We push ourselves. And we forget that we are like, oh man, we are nothing more. We're like cars or airplanes. We require fuel to function, to fly straight, to drive well. And if you don't put the right fuel in the engine, it's not going to work. We are nothing but a series. The human body, genius engineering. The human body, though, is nothing more than a group of biochemical reactions. So if you're not feeding those chemical reactions with the right nutrients at the right time, you're in deficit. And that's why I built this drink mix, to keep me going out of necessity. And now we're going to take it to market, and it's going to be huge. But the company actually is called Immortal Rituals. So it's playing on the vampire theme, but also, too, the ritual behind just taking 1 minute for yourself. So we've married an action to the product. And it's just, you have to take those few moments for yourself to regenerate and repower your energy. Otherwise, you're just going to spiral down. And you can do that for a week or so at a time, but when you do it for years on end, you know, your body can handle stress, just not acute stress. It can take stress for a little while and then taper off. But we keep our bodies under acute stress all the time. And that's where disease comes from, that's where cancer comes from, that's where depression comes from. All these things that we see in society would literally not exist if people actually just took care of themselves. It's science. It's unimpeachable. It's medicine. It's, you know, food is medicine, medicine is food. So if you say, how do you keep going like that? That's how. And a lot of positive energy, and just, you've got to love what you do. And you've got to feed yourself properly.
And one last question, because all credits to you. Thank you for joining us in Germany, because I know on Sunday you have birthday and you're here with a fan. So this is so lovely. So much about that, being here, joining us, and spending your time here.
Yeah, I love being here. There's always so much love and really powerful, positive energy for me. I also get to have profound and amazing, wonderful conversations, and I get to spend my birthday here. And the last 2 years, I'm sad that I don't get to spend it with my wife and my baby, but the last 2 years, my wife has thrown me the most unbelievable, beautiful birthday celebrations that have been so deep and wonderful. But I get to spend it with you guys, and that means a great deal to me. You know, it's a lot of fun. So thank you.
Thank you so much for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Great.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome, man. And also too, you know, I say this